Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Sometimes even the most patient people snap. That's what our first story's about. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Project cancellation fee is 50% of the purchase order value? We'll revise the purchase order value then. Hi everyone, hope you're having a swell day. If your day's going less than stellar, then know that you're strong and you can do this. Okay, now on to the story. The cast. Me equals lead project engineer, Adam equals my boss, Bob equals Client Corp's lead engineer, Charlie equals Bob's replacement of sorts, Client Corp equals subsidiary company of Mega Client Corp. The calm before the storm. Once upon a time, many moons ago, I was but a lowly peon project manager. I'm being repressed, working on a big $1 million project that my company was contracted to do for Client Corp. That was a part of a larger project by the Client Corp. Things were progressing well, we had the job design and engineering done, materials ordered, ready to mobilize the team to the job site. All of a sudden, the client, Bob, says to us peons, "Hark ye, your project will now be canceled because the project will be canceled." Of course, we weren't too happy about it because all the work we'd put in up to that point basically just went up in smoke. Even with cancellation fees, that kind of just barely covered the costs we'd incurred to date, no profit. We were now stuck with a huge amount of materials that we had to find a way to redeploy with a shelf life. We knew that claiming cancellation fees was going to be a painful, thorny path. Boy, oh boy, was it a truly painful and thorny path to walk indeed. Breakdown in negotiations. So my team and boss put together the supporting documents, etc., and prepared the job cancellation invoice, then appointed me as the sacrificial lamb bearer of the cancellation invoice to deliver the news to the Client Corp. Bob was not happy. Duh. Negotiations started with Bob, his bosses, Adam, my boss, and me in the room. Barely 10 minutes in, and there's raised voices, palms slamming on the table, angry men all around. Adam and myself tried our best to placate the client's team to no avail, even as they tried whatever intimidation tactics they could bully us into dropping the cancellation fees. We'd worked out a few options beforehand to be more flexible in this, but all were shot down by Bob's team in anger. Finally, Adam said the magic words. The cancellation clause is written into the master contract with MegaClient. If you don't agree to this, then perhaps we can escalate to MegaClient's higher management for arbitration. The room fell silent. Obviously, Bob's/client's team already had a lot of foul-smelling substances on their plate already with the failure of the larger project as a whole. Their subsidiary organization was formed as a special purpose company just for this project, and the last thing they needed was more attention from the parent company. Cue malicious compliance. "Fine," says Bob. "You know what? We'll pay you the cancellation fee, 50% of the purchase order value as stated in the contract." Bob's face took on a sinister smirk. "But we'll need to adjust the purchase order value." And with that, Adam and I got booted out of their office. The very next day, my company accounts department started screaming. Apparently, client had indeed adjusted the purchase order value from the original X million dollars down to $10,000. That meant that the cancellation fee, going by the letter of the contract, was now only $5,000. Jeez, talk about a low blow. But wait, there's more. All subsequent attempts to reach out to Bob and his team by phone or email were stonewalled. Finally, after a few days, I personally paid Bob a visit at his office, only to have him laugh in my face and basically say, "What you gonna do about it?" Other follow-up meeting requests to Bob and his team were denied outright for a couple of weeks. Finally, Adam pulled some strings to have our company's senior management talk to MegaClient's senior management, after which we got to meet with an entirely different team than before. Enter Charlie. Charlie was on a different part of the team from Bob, and we hadn't had any dealings with him before. Charlie told us that Bob had been transferred back to MegaClient HQ, Client Corp was being disbanded, and now Charlie had to take over from Bob. Charlie also had no idea of what had transpired before this, so we filled him in. You see, Bob had pulled a fast MC on us. He knew he was being transferred back to HQ, so he tried to screw us over and also make it look like the project cancellation costs were smaller than what they actually are. To give Charlie due credit, he did try to help us resolve the cancellation fees. Only problem is, with the stunt that Bob had pulled just before leaving, we were collectively stuck in a cesspit. You see, in order to correct the purchase order to the original correct value, it needed to be verified by the originator of said purchase order, Bob, who was no longer around, and approved by a manager, Bob's boss, who was also no longer around. To make things worse, since the larger project had been canceled, finance and accounting functions were now taken over by MegaClient's finance team, who had no idea of the backstory, and a boatload of suspicion as to why the purchase order now has to be retroactively increased after a project cancellation in order to facilitate cancellation fee payment to a supplier, by a huge amount no less. What do you mean you need to increase the PO amount from $10,000 to X million after the fact? We need to get verification from the originator and approver to proceed. All in the midst of a corporate reshuffle within Client/MegaClient Corp, which meant we had to deal with a rotating cast of different people who again had no idea of the backstory to all this. Fun times. All in all, it took us a year of painful back-and-forth explanations and negotiations, often repeating the same story to multiple senior managers, multiple parties, accusations of fraud, some creative negotiations, including transference of inventory to the parent company MegaClient to support some of their other projects, which in turn messed with our company's other projects with MegaClient to get things finally resolved and recoup our losses. Meanwhile, just dealing with all this meant that effectively, I couldn't be reassigned to other projects because dealing with this became a full-time job in itself. Thus went one of the most stressful and unproductive years of my career, and also an abject lesson in personal and professional integrity. Please, dear listeners, don't do this to your suppliers, and always pay attention to the cancellation clauses in your contracts. And our second story. Made my ex-boss lose $25,000 on his salary. I used to work at a Wendy's as a manager. It was already a crappy job, but my general manager was nice and most employees were easy to deal with. All this started when I was already working 65-hour weeks. I was offered a $100 bonus to work one of my only days off. I decided to do it, and later that week, before I'd even been paid, I was asked to come in again. I said this time I'd like $150, as at this point I'd worked almost 23 days without any days off. They said they'd do it, so in I went. Cut forward 3 weeks. I've been asking about my money for a while now. I'm told by my general manager that I could speak to my district manager, as he would be in later that night. The conversation goes like, me. Hey, do you know what's going on with the bonus? I'm owed $250 with both the days. District manager, well, that's why I came here. The store's been having trouble making money. So basically he's telling me that my performance isn't good enough. At this point, I'm working dinner rush and the whole night with me and 3 others, my girlfriend, best friend, another friend that has grown close. District manager, your shift isn't making as much money as others, and your drive time's higher. Me, well, we're doing all we can. It takes extra time when we only have half the number of people with the same amount of customers. District manager, that's really no excuse. Me, when am I going to receive my bonus? My DM was a very sheepish man, so he's very obviously scared when he tells me this. We can't give you a bonus until the revenue rises and drive time goes down. I'm speechless at this point. The rest of the conversation was a blur. I grew up on the South Side. You don't mess with people's money. A day passes. I've had time to collect myself and speak to my entire crew. Everyone agrees to walk out with me. So I call my district manager. The phone starts to ring, but then it cuts off. He declined my call. So I called him again, and again, and again. Finally, I just leave him a voicemail. Look, Jacob, you need to talk to me. You have until 8:45 to call me back or all the night crew is gone. At this point, it's 7:30. I go into my office and start watching my boss's email. She leaves it open and logged in. I figured he'd probably email her before calling me. Around 20 minutes of watching this email, and boom, an email pops up. Emergency, Lonnie. This idiot put my name on the email, so of course I read it. Long story short, in the email it was him trying to make sure my general manager was going to be ready to go to work, aka he wasn't going to call me or give me my money, so I get all my people together and we walk out, leaving everything out, all the meat, all the toppings, the fryer, everything. The next day I turn in my keys. About a week later, I'm called by my brother. Me. What's up? Brother. Jacob lost all his stores. He has to go back to Indiana. My brother worked at the store as well. If you didn't know, district managers' pay is based on the amount of stores they have and how much they make. When he moved to Indiana, his wages got reduced for $65,000 to around $40,000. All this for $250. If you can't afford to do things honestly, you don't deserve to have a business.
And our third story. Oh, you're the owner's sister? Wow. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I started a business, and we're still expanding. We have a pretty jolly good amount of people working for us. Our office is right next to the front desk, and our open hours are 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. This will be important later. So one day about a year ago, I was working late on my computer, and the doors were left unlocked because I was just finishing up some tasks and had to head to my mom's house immediately after that. Guess who comes waltzing in? Yep, that's correct. The Karen. Now, since it's past closing time, almost 9:45, the front desk is not there. Karen immediately starts yelling drastically for the front desk, "Front desk, I need a pass!" I get up to go and confront her. Hey ma'am, we're closed and... No, you're not! Do you even work here? Yes, ma'am, I'm actually the owner. You're lying! If you were the owner, you would know what the hours of this store were. Karen then pulls a face like she just saw a ghost. Did you break in here? I'm calling the police. Karen takes out her phone and starts jamming 911 into the keypad. Halfway through, she stops, anticipating an "I give up" response from me. I tell her, no, I'm the actual owner. You see, No, you're lying, because I'm the sister of the owner of this place. I can easily call her. I shrug and give her a business card, and she furiously dials in the number. I'll never know if she actually called the police. They never came, so I'm assuming she didn't. When she dialed the number on the business card, the phone rings, and Karen just gives me this smug look like, "Ha-ha, now they're going to back me up." Instead, I gleefully watch her face turn white as my phone rings. I pick it up and say, "Hello, how can I help you on this fine day?" Karen doesn't do anything for 1 second, completely paralyzed. Then she hangs up and does this fast-walking shuffle thing out the door. Never saw her again, poor lady. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.